I find it easier if a community of men come together and say we're going to protect our women. There's this native belief that as a man, we should always be dominant. We should always be revered and feared.
Why do we have to be in such a society where we have to watch everything that we do, like the surrounding around us, and not just feel safe?
And honestly speaking, if as a man you have it in you to actually abuse a woman, abuse a child, you are a very weak man. It takes, like I said, it takes a very strong man to be able to understand that, look, the person I've married is still a human being and she still has her own voice as well. Disclaimer, this podcast is all about real conversations, raw, authentic, and unscripted. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in raw conversations are solely those of the host and the guests. If you're struggling, please reach out to someone qualified. And remember, take what helps, leave what doesn't. Welcome to the circle. Let's keep it raw, real, and respectful. Welcome to Raw Conversations with Herald Kavuala. Today's a very different show. It's a different episode, as you can already see from the setup, the whole purple. It's different for two reasons. Reasons number one, we're standing in solidarity. Jeez, English. Solidarity with what's currently happening in South Africa, which is the whole gender-based violence. And then reason number two, as you just heard, my wife is with me on set, and she's pretty much going to cover, well, she's not going to speak behalf of all women, but she's going to speak as a woman regarding this whole gender-based violence. So she doesn't want to be on the camera. She's a bit camera shy for the moment. For those of you wondering why she's not in the limelight, I guess it's one of the reasons why. But yeah, so she will cover up the female side, and then I will speak as a man. Firstly, to put it out there, I do not support gender-based violence. I do not support men hitting women or hitting kids for whatever reason. It don't matter what the reason is. And honestly speaking, if as a man, you have it in you to actually abuse a woman, abuse a child, you are a very weak man and should not be even called a man. To start off, you are still a boy. And that's my take on this whole gender-based violence thing. Before we get into this whole situation and what my wife thinks and what I think about it, I'm just going to read out some stats about the current situation in South Africa in case you are watching from anywhere else in the country. What's that? Oh, you have an intro.
Introduction.
I already said my wife.
But my name, what's my wife's
Okay,
name?
my wife Monique is here. You want to introduce yourself?
Hello, Raw viewers. My name is Monique Kavuala, and I'm happy to be here today. Thank you.
Well, that was my wife, Monique. So, yeah, I want to get into the stats and then we will break it down and think what we say. Well, think what we say and say what we think. All right, so gender-based stats in South Africa. This is the femicide and the murder for women. Between the months of July and September 2024, 957 women were murdered. Over the year to March 2024, 5,578 women were killed. In the same period, 1,656 children were also killed. Attempted murder and assault. In the third quarter of 2024, July to September, 1,567 women survived attempted murder, up from 1,514 in the same quarter in 2003. In that same quarter, 14,366 women were assaulted, resulting in grievous bodily harm. Rape and sexual violence. In the third quarter of 2024, 10,191 rapes were reported. By the way, this is all according to the Times Live essay, and this is HSRC. For the financial year 2003-2004, there were 42,569 reported rape cases. According to the Amnesty International, between April 2002 and March 2003, there were 42,780 reported rape cases, plus 7,483 sexual assaults. This, in my book, justifies why Cyril Ramaphosa decided to but how do you put this? She decided to make the whole gender-based violence a national crisis. He declared GBV in SA a national crisis because things are getting out of hand. So, babe, from a woman's perspective, what can you say?
I feel like, from a woman's perspective, first of all, South Africa is becoming an unsafe place for us to stay in.
Us as a woman.
As in women, yes. We cannot call home anymore because we are too scared to actually feel comfortable in what we should feel safe in, if I'm making sense. For me personally, I feel like South Africa is starting to become one of the most unsafe countries in the world, not just in Africa, because, we can look at other countries like, Brazil, the favelas. We have Philippines where a lot of trafficking happens. But for me personally, this has to be one of like the most unsafe country. And honestly, I really feel very, very sad, and I stand with everyone, every family that has lost their, daughters, their sisters, their wives in this. None of them deserved it. So I would just like to know why. Where is this coming from? Does it have to do with economy, the unemployment? Like, where is this rage coming from that forces men to do such violent acts upon women? Women can't even fight for themselves. So just like my husband said, you're considered to be very weak if you actually lay your hand on a woman. She like, let's not talk about women, because even toddlers and babies and children are now in this whole situation. So where do you think this rage is coming from? Like, it's very concerning.
You're asking me?
I want to know, because I want to know from a man's point of view, what makes you guys angry to that point? Or is it a problem of entitlement? Do you feel like you have more power when you do such acts? Like, what's the mindset? What do you think can run through this perpetrator's mindset when you see whatever is happening and you hear the stories?
Personally, I can't relate because I don't beat women. I don't abuse women. I don't support abusing women. But from the knowledge I know, or from what I can tell with regards to the whole situation, I mean, first and foremost, South Africa, we're one of the top-ranking countries that have the highest alcohol consumptions. So obviously, alcohol plays a factor in this whole situation of abuse as well. We have the biggest beverage in the whole world of alcohol. And secondly, the percentage of unemployment. Yes, it recently went down, but it's still pretty high. Secondly, we as men, there's this native belief. Thirdly, actually, there's this native belief that as a man, we should always be dominant. We should always be revered and feared. And South African women have a tendency, and I'm not blaming South African women, who have a tendency of always, not always, but South African women have a tendency of always trying to show men as well that they will not just tolerate anything from any man, of which I understand. I do support a woman standing her ground and saying that, no, you can't just walk over me and tell me what to do and what not to do because you are the man. I do somehow see their stance on that. But as an African man, it's very hard to actually accept women not listening to us. It takes, like I said, it takes a very strong man to be able to understand that, look, the person I've married is still a human being and she still has her own voice as well. So as a man now, I cannot take her voice away because she's now under my roof. And not every man sees life like that. Some men still want to impose their manhood on their woman in the household. And then if you try and stand your ground or try to tell him that he's wrong, and then he retaliates.
But then, okay, I do get that point.
Am I being interrogated here?
I do get that point, but then there's women that find themselves in situations whereby that is not even the case, whereby we want to be heard, or we want, you to understand where we're coming from. For example, the lady that was, violated in the post office, she didn't know that person. There was no altercation whereby they were fighting or anything happened. So she was just a whole normal lady that's going to the post office, a public place, to do whatever she wants to do and go back home. But you then get some guy who just feels like, oh, I wanna do something bad to this lady. What did she do to you? She didn't do anything to you. So what gives you the right to actually even, go ahead and do such a violent act on somebody you don't even know, first of all? And somebody who's helpless. She doesn't even have anyone next to her to help her and to fight for her. Like, I don't think men should have the rights to even, lay a finger on women. I'm very baffled as to what creates monsters like this in this world. That's very scary.
There is no defense to men hitting women. That's a fact, regardless of what the situation might be.
Hmm.
But at the same time, like the story you just said, we also need to look at it from his angle. And I'm not saying this to say he's innocent, but
Was he horny?
well, see that that's what I'm trying to say. There's many questions. Was he sober? That's question number one. Did he take drugs prior to that? Question number two. Was he even was he sane at that particular time? Those are questions we need to ask. I genuinely, to put of my core, unless that person is mentally unstable, I generally cannot picture a man who just decides to leave the house sober and decides to rape a woman. Unless, like I said, that man is honestly mentally unstable or he's crazy. But every man in a sound
I
mind
personally feel like South African men are kind of like unstable. Forgive me for saying this, but it's not normal. When I look at all this men that are attacking these women, I'm sure some of them are very much sober and very much not under the influence. But I just feel like it's a problem of power and feeling entitled. It has to do with how. No, man, I don't want to touch on background, because I know, like in South Africa, there's a lot of cases where children have grown up without parents and all that can affect you in the near future. But is that a reason to actually become the worst case of a human being because of where you come from? Because when I look at this, I'm sure this rage might have been built up from, growing up and where you come from. I don't think it's just, I think it has to do with background.
Look, there's one thing that we cannot deny. There's a lot behind all this stuff. We can go back generations to come. And let's also not forget that before, this was not an issue like it is now. It's only an issue now because women now want to have equal rights. Women now want to come against the patriarchy. Women also want to have equal pay and whatnot. But back then, none of this was the thing. Back then, a man could actually hit a woman and it would be okay. It would be considered okay back then. Now the times are different, right? We're trying to, as a society, as a new age world, we're trying to change and move with the times to a point where we can allow women as well to sit at the high tables. We can allow women to sit up in power, in positions of power. Prior to this time, it wasn't an actual thing. So we still have men who still have that mentality. We're still stuck in the mentality of saying that I have the right to hit my woman. And till this day, there are some nations that can actually be tolerated and it's okay. Right? Some people might argue that you put a woman in her place and the family will be fine. Some people argue, say no, but as a woman, she should be able to have a voice. Right? So it's all going to come down to, as well as individuals, and how we move with the times. Right? I wouldn't blame a man who's stuck on the mindset of saying that no. Back when I was growing up, my dad used to hate my mom, and the house was fine. That's how things were back then, and back then it was okay. Now times have changed. Are you now, as a person, going to choose to change with the times, or are you going to choose to remain in the mindset that your father raised you in? So yeah, sometimes, like you said, sometimes maybe the person is not even drunk, maybe the person is even sober, but that's just how they grew up. They saw their mother get beat by their father, and the mother stayed in the house. The mother never left. The mother never filed for divorce. The mother never complained to the child. So to the child, this probably made sense to say, okay, sharp, if my wife decides to stand against me, I can slap her and everything will be fine. It doesn't, like I said, still, it doesn't justify, but again, it comes down to the whole movement into this time of women wanting to also have some, I don't know how to phrase this. Women wanting to have some sort of authority, I think is the best way I can put it. Because women want to have authority nowadays as well.
What do you mean?
Look, it's a thing where women say, you can't tell me what to dress. You can't tell me what to say. You can't tell me how to do things. Right? That's you seeking your own authority. That's you seeking your own independence. In the case of marriage, it's something that obviously both couples have to speak about, right? But now, in the outside world, where, like for the instance, that guy and that lady at the post office, we can't exactly tell why that happened, right? Maybe him in his world, I don't know. I can't justify his actions, but it's very hard for me to also say, because I'm not someone that does that stuff. So I don't know what would push a man to hit a woman. I don't see any reason to hit a woman. There is no reason for me, in my world, in my books, for a man to hit a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And not just a woman, even kids. Right? Yeah, the Bible does say, you spoil the rod, you spare the rod, you will spoil the child, but don't kill the child.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little smack on the hand or on the bum, and the child will come all right. I don't know, man.
So you mentioned something about, don't tell me how to dress and all that.
But did I lie though?
Earlier on, we were speaking on, before this interview, we were talking about, the whole dress code and all that.
Yeah.
How does my dress code actually play a part in, a man laying his hands on me? What about the toddlers? What would they say? The babies, what would they say?
We live in an unfair world. Let's be honest. Look, I worked hard. Let's say I owned a Mercedes Benz, right? I worked hard for that Mercedes Benz. I put in sweat, blood, tears, and hours so I can put the money to buy that car, right? And then I get robbed. I did not ask to get robbed, right? And then the thief can't say, oh no, it's because you bought a Mercedes Benz, right? But it's the same thing with the ladies and how they choose to dress, right? Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how to dress, right? And I cannot be the dress code police, right? And be like, oh no, it's because of the way you dress that you got raped. But the way you dress will attract some sort of attention, whether you like it or not. It's just the realities of life, right? The more money you make in this world, the more you're going to have.
But children, you want to tell me a child who's wearing a mini skirt is attracting a man?
If the man's a pedophile, then yes.
And a baby?
Well, if he's a pedophile, I don't know how far pedophiles are willing to go.
But what about like your women like your Habibis? They are all covered and they still go through this kind of situations.
But the percentage is far less compared to those who wear.
Who told you that? What if they're actually hiding what's happening in their country?
Okay, but then that's the difference between them and I want to say feminist. There's a difference between them and the ladies of today's time. Whatever they choose to deal with is how they choose to deal with. Maybe they don't want to portray their country in a certain light, right? They want to still portray themselves as this, close, tight country, right? And then we have South Africa that's very modernized and we want to speak out and vocalize every single thing. That also gives the country a better reputation, whether we like it or not. So whether it's true that it's happening in the countries where the ladies actually wear their, what is it called, habibs or whatever, what that attire is called. If they choose to be silent about it, it preserves the reputation we have of them. So whether it's true or not, we cannot stand here and say that, yeah, they're getting raped or no, they're getting raped. They are choosing to preserve. It's the same thing with marriage. No one truly knows what's happening inside the marriage until someone takes it out. So if we choose as a country to deal with our own issues internally, it's not going to be a global thing, like for Ramaphosa to actually go and actually announce it as a national concern. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how else to answer that.
Okay, personally,
I feel like I'm being
I believe that gender-based violence.
I've never in my life hit a woman.
We don't know that.
I've never in my entire life ever here. I've never.
Gender-based violence in South Africa is actually a crisis, right? Women, we live in fear every day, not because of what we wear or where they go, but because as a society where violence against women has become normalized, GBV, oh my gosh, sorry, is about power, control, and the lack of accountability. These men don't want to take accountability for their actions. Not the dress code. I think we need to shift our focus from what the victim was wearing and actually focus on the attitudes of the perpetrators.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
but that's being naive though.
How?
If you choose to walk if you choose to walk in Hebrew with a Louis Vuitton bag, you're gonna get mugged. Like it or not, you didn't ask to get mugged.
Okay,
But you're gonna
the
get
lady
mugged.
who's wearing a mini skirt didn't ask to be
To get raped. But
That
yeah,
was
but
her choice of
if I can
of
see your
wearing
bum
what she wanted
cheeks,
to wear.
if the guy can see your bum cheeks and the guy is a psychopath, he's gonna rape you. That's the sad reality of life.
Why would you think that me wearing a dress like a message believer or a nun would protect me from a perpetrator?
There's this joke that Dave Chappelle once said. He said, he was in a club, right? And then a chick came dressed with a short skirt. And then with the butt cheeks showing, right? And then she walked into the club and came to Dave Chappelle. And then Dave Chappelle asked her, how much? And then she was like, oh, excuse me, I'm not selling, right? As in, he assumed that she's a prostitute or an escort, whatever the case may be, right? And then Dave Chappelle says, okay, sharp, if I go outside and I dress as a police cop and I come inside the club, are you not going to greet me as good afternoon officer? You will, because I'm dressed as a cop. If you're going to come dressed as a prostitute, I'm sorry, I'll treat you like a prostitute. So at some point, we all have to be accountable for the things that we do. The same way we want to hold men, I feel like I'm defending men right now. The same way we want to hold men accountable for abusing women. The same way also women have to be accountable for the things they say, wear, act, and wherever they go. We all have to be accountable. To some extent, this whole gender-based violence thing is something that both parties have to do or play to fix it.
Yeah.
Both parties have to play a role.
Okay.
So it's sharp. We're not denying the fact that men are abusive. And like you said, it comes down to power control. Men always want to feel in control. Men always feel powerful. That's why they always tended to be violent even as men, we somehow always tend to be violent. And then against a woman should never be the case. But we always be seeking control, we're always seeking power. But if a woman has work and play her part and be like, look, I know that my man is a short type of person, I'm a special type of person, I'm not going to engage him. That's going to solve the issue. If you can see that your man is getting hot-tempered and you know he's got tendencies of getting physical, leave the room. Leave his space, leave him alone by himself. And then, I don't know, to some extent he's going to come all right, I guess. But both parties have a role to play in this whole gender-based violence thing.
How?
By everyone being accountable for the things they do. If you're going to come dressed up as a short skirt, then drive. Make sure you're driving. When you get to the shop, park as close as the mall as possible. Get out of the car, get into the mall. Come out of the mall, get into your car and go off.
Why do we have to be in such a society where we have to watch everything that we do, like the surrounding around us, and not just feel safe? We need to create a safe environment. South Africa needs to be a safer environment for all the South African women, all the women living in South Africa in a whole. But now we are here, we have to watch our back. When we get in the taxi, we have to look who's next to us. When we go on a train, we have to watch ourselves. Come on.
But
should we stop existing?
I agree with what you're saying.
Should we stop existing?
But the law of nature says, if we don't live by rules, then we're just like animals.
How about feeling comfortable in your own surrounding?
Then you have to create, I don't know how you're going to do this, but if you're living in a country where every man is aggressive, every man is violent, and then you want to live, I don't know, carefree and say whatever you want to say, and insult whoever you want to insult, you're going to get beat. If you're living in a world where you've got calm men who are sober-minded, men who are just focused on getting their lives together and stuff, then you can say whatever you want to say. You know for a fact that this man's not going to do anything. Because you know this man is sober-minded, this man is calm, this man is he's this and this and that. But then if you live in a country where men are aggressive, men are violent, typical African men, you are going to have a problem. And that's what it comes down to, saying we have to abide by the laws and rules of nature. If the men in this country are violent, aggressive men, then the women in this world have to be calm. They basically have to be the bigger men, in the most simplest of terms.
But you do understand that the fear has become part of an everyday life.
I do, I get it. But again, like I'm saying, both parties have to play a role in this whole situation to fix it.
I need the government to actually come into this.
I'm tired of you guys blaming the government for stuff.
Why?
Because the government does nothing for you guys. And then you keep blaming the government.
That's why I'm saying we need the government to actually be more involved in this, because we feel like, you know what? I feel like Gen Z is actually going to take matters into their hands if the government doesn't come
I prefer that than government.
Yeah, but what is the government doing then if we're not feeling like they can protect us from whatever's happening, you know? We need them to actually make it like, you know, actually like treat it as a national crisis, like they say.
I find it easier if a community of men come together and say, we want to protect our women, and if the government has to say, you guys do it. Because then what happens then is that the government now has to dictate.
You men behave like you don't actually care about what's happening in the society.
It's not all men though.
It's not all men.
There are a few men out there that
Can
actually...
you give me like a percentage of the men that actually
care? I can't,
care?
because I don't know. The people I know all care.
The people
I know all care. I don't know anyone that doesn't care. I surround myself with men that actually care about how women are treated. Mm-hmm. I don't surround myself with vagabonds and barbarians. So I already know. All right, no, this is supposed to going way above and beyond my regular time. All right, so yeah, those were just our thoughts and what we think regarding this whole gender-based violence thing going on right now. As you can tell, my wife is very passionate about her freedom as a woman, her freedom of every other woman in South Africa, them being able to live their lives the way they want to live their lives. Something I can endorse, but at the same time, rights and responsibilities, right? You have your right. You have the right to live the life the way you want to live it, but you also have the responsibility to be accountable for the life that you choose to live. If you're going to choose to leave your house with the dress that's way above your knees and close to your bum cheeks, be accountable for the men that are going to be looking at you. It goes both ways to some extent. I'm sorry, this is South Africa. That's the country we live in. If you go to Miami, you go to, I don't know, the Bahamas, you can probably walk around with your bikini and no one's going to care. This is South Africa. You walk out there with your bum cheek showing, the taxi drivers and the other people, the Nwapi boys, they want to come after you. I'm so sorry. That's South Africa. That's South Africa, guys. If you go to the Bahamas, you can walk around with your bikinis. No one's going to look. They're going to look at you, but no one's going to physically assault you.
Yeah, but now that's what we're trying to look into, a safer South Africa. Why can't we be like the Bahamas?
But what are the possibilities of that happening?
Sorry?
What are the possibilities of that happening?
That's where I'm asking for the government to come in so that we can make our country feel like a safer home to stay in.
I don't think the government can do anything. I don't trust the government, that's for sure. I don't trust the government for nothing. The government has never done anything for me. So I don't trust the government for nothing. But yeah, I mean, everyone has a role to play in this whole thing. Look, my final words are this, and then my wife also have final words, and then we can end this podcast because
yeah, I have my final words.
My final words are this: each and every single man is actually watching me right now. If you have it in you to lay your hands on a woman or a child abusively, you are an extremely weak man, and then you need to get your shit together. I'm sorry, it is the first time I actually cursed on my podcast in a very long time. Actually, I cursed with TJ. TJ is a very bad influence in my life. Anyway, as a man, you are allowed to get angry, you are allowed to get emotional, you are allowed to get to feel heated up. But you're not allowed to lay your hands on a woman regardless of what she says, does. Unless it's in self-defense. If she grabs a knife to want to stab you, I can understand you defending yourself. But if she does not lay a hand on you, you shouldn't lay a hand on her. Those are my final words. And that goes both woman and child. Right? If it was my way, I swear to God, any man that beats a woman should be put in a ring and should get beat up by another man. If it was my way. What are your final words?
Okay. Gender-based violence is not a women's issue. It's a societal issue. Until we challenge harmful beliefs, hold perpetrators accountable, and create safe environments for women and girls, true freedom cannot exist. Every one of us has a responsibility to speak up, protect one another, and refuse to normalize violence. Together we can build a South Africa where women live without fear. So let us stop gender-based based violence. Let us stop. And I just need the government to find a way to stop it, because it's actually becoming too much.
I actually want to leave it there. As you can see, I'm switching back to.
You're not respecting us.
No, it's because now I want to get now to the raw conversations. I want to say something now that's going to trigger a lot of people. Okay, and that's just based off something that you just said. I'm not taking anything away from what you just said right now.
Okay.
But my thing is, what is true freedom?
The ability to actually go out there without feeling scared to look over our shoulder, be able to enter the taxi knowing that I'll get home, be able to actually park in a parking lot without, being trapped and, looking, just the overall safety, like feeling safe wherever I walk, being able to walk at night without feeling like I'm going to be attacked by a tsotsi, just overall being free to do whatever I want, not acting recklessly, but, being able to move around without feeling scared, if I can put it like that. Yeah.
That's a good dream to have, but in the reality we live in, that's not going to happen.
No, I'm sure it's possible. You get other countries where you can literally walk at 1 o'clock in the morning and not have to look over your shoulder. You can leave your bag on your car and nobody's going to touch it. I believe that if we work together, South Africa can also become that kind of country,
I like your hopes and dreams. I don't want to bash them, but every country is different. Every country. When Congo got independence, they thought they were going to be a good country, and then everything went south. When Gaddafi was trying to stabilize Africa as a whole, the Europeans killed him. There's many African leaders before they tried to bring unity and tried to bring the best of their countries, and they all failed. And I'm not saying that there's no hope for South Africa. I'm just speaking the honest to God truth, is that certain countries are just the way they are. Rwanda is where it is right now because of all the blood and sweat that a lot of Congolese men had to put in by mining and all that stuff, right? And that's just what it is. That's the sad reality that we actually live in. America does not show they're homeless, but there are homeless people are in America. Paris does not show homelessness, but there's a lot of homeless people in Paris. Every country has its issue. They just choose to deal with it internally. As a country, I get what you're saying with the whole government, but it is up to all of us as South Africans to resolve this matter of GBV. For me personally, it's not a government issue. It's a personal issue, because all the men that abuse women, all the men that rape women, that beat up kids, it's a mental issue more than anything else. It's either the fact that they are living in poverty, it's either the fact that they are not able to provide for themselves. It's factors that they've got no education. It's factors of the house that live in. It's factors of their tribe. Zulu men, for one, are very proud people.
There is no excuse to beating a woman or laying your hand on a woman. That is no excuse.
There is no excuse, but it's a reality we live in. In 1980 and so on, that was allowed. We are basically trying to change the times. And with that, it's going to require sacrifices. Traore, the guy from Burkina Faso, when he took power, there was an entire, what's it called again, man? Not ambush. What's that word in French? I forgot the word in French. But when he took power, he killed pretty much almost every single leader that was there before him. That's the only way he took power. Same thing with Congo. If Congo wants to change its state, it has to kill all the old ministers. Kabila has to go. And all the other people have to go for Congo to start new. So if as a country we want to change the country, sacrifices have to be made, certain people have to go. And I don't know if that's a price that certain people are willing to pay. And that's the reality that we live in. The world that we want to live in is very nice, but it comes at a heavy price. The government is not going to pay the price. I know that much for a fact. it's up to us individuals to actually pay that price. It's up to us individuals. When you know of someone that actually raped a woman, you go and you deal with that person. The next man that thinks of it will remember what happened to that man that was dealt with when he raped that woman.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way we're going to solve this issue. If a man rapes a woman, a bunch of men go find a man, beat him up. The next man that thinks of raping a woman, he's going to remember what happened to that man. Same thing, Congo does that stuff. In Congo, when you commit a crime, they're going to beat you up, record it. And every other criminal will know that if I do this, I'm going to get caught and this doesn't happen to me. So everything's going to come at a very heavy price. And the government's not going to pay the price. It's up to us as people to pay the price. Saying that was raw. Okay, Sharps, I guess we can actually call it. Any final words?
No. Thank you.
So guys, thank you so much for tuning in to answer many questions. That was my wife. One of these days she will show her face. But she will be in the thumbnail, so you can see her face. You want to be thumbnail, right? Or you want to be ghost on the thumbnail? Well, okay, when the thumbnail comes up, you guys, I don't know, it might be a ghost, it might be her, but thank you so much for tuning in. If it's your first time coming, please, if you like what you heard, do subscribe, do share, and do comment. If you are a returning guest, YouTube tells me that I have over 75% returning viewers that do not subscribe. Please do subscribe. And guys, I appreciate the love and the support. Thank you so much. And I'll see you on the next one.